So I click this. Georgie, am I coming through all right?
Yep, check. 1 2 1 2. I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm more used to blue jeans than this. Sorry. You got this set up very quickly, Georgie.
I'm great at logging on.
Hello?
Oh God, what's
Hello?
that? Oh, Antigone.
Hello?
Hi. Yes, sorry. You're coming through just fine.
What?
Antigone, can you hear me?
What?
Can
Who
you
are
hear
you?
me? My
What
voice
did you
should
say?
be coming into your ears
No, I
now.
can't. Hang on. No, what? No, shut up.
Listen, where's
I
Rudyard? Is he coming?
Reverend, stand up. Reverend.
Rudyard.
Reverend, stand up. Reverend, I need you to balance. Balance. Reverend, up. A bit further.
Rudyard, you're coming through just fine. I think you can let the Reverend go now.
That's it. Just stay
Can't see if I can
there.
hear you. What are you doing?
Bloody Nora.
Bless you.
It's you.
That's the cold open.
Are we all here? Everyone's here. Great.
Yeah.
Tom, you were muted for some
Am
reason.
I? That's interesting.
Now you're not.
Oh,
Wonderful.
good.
Okay, so I hear French police going by. This is very exotic.
exciting.
They're trying to catch the Rona.
Doesn't say much.
God, it's a nice siren, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? It's how I picture a siren sounding anyway, but it doesn't. What? So was there something insipid about that I said? What?
No, it's just a great observation, I suppose.
Anyway, guys, what day is today? Do we all know what day today
Today's
is?
after
And why we're
10th
doing
of
this?
September.
September
Anniversary.
2020.
We are recording this on the 10th of September, and it's going out on the feed for the 5th anniversary of Wooden Overcoats, which is ridiculous. I'm not entirely sure how we got there. So, welcome everyone to this celebration.
Shall we say our names to remind people who we are?
Yeah, let's go round.
Starting with me, I'm Tom Crowley.
Who plays Chapman in the
Oh
series?
yeah, sorry, I'm Tom Crowley. I play Eric Chapman and I write for the show as well.
I'm Ciara Baxendale. I play Georgie in Wooden Overcoats.
You do it so well.
That's David K. Barnes. And I'm Andy Goddard, one of the producers. And the other one is...
John Wakefield, who said the stuff at the beginning.
I'm Beth Eyre.
And I'm Beth Eyre. I play Antigone Fun.
And
Do I not get to be Ciara anymore?
You can be Ciara.
I am Ciara. We're all Ciara in our own way.
And Liz, tell us who you're on. I don't think we had it announced.
I'm Liz Campbell. I'm the production manager. Hi.
Well, welcome everyone to this celebration. We've all got...
We haven't had
we've
Ciara.
definitely
did
not
have
had Ciara. No, that was
I
David.
said hello already. I'm also Beth Eyre.
How have we even released 3 series of a podcast?
Mate, I don't have anybody else in the room.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay,
Is that a gin and orange?
Sipping on gin and juice.
so
Scotch and water, please.
starting this afresh.
Very
Am I
good.
quiet?
You're now very loud.
Sorry.
Shall we pick an order for people to go in and then just do it in an efficient way?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I think, John, do you want to just call...
Yes, I will let everyone introduce themselves. So, my name is John Wakefield. I'm one of the directors and producers of Wooden Overcoats. The other director and producer is...
Hi, me, Andy Goddard.
And then our lead writer is...
David K. Barnes, hello. Hello. Oh, dear.
Our production manager is...
Elizabeth Campbell, hi.
And then over to our starring cast. Antigone Fun is played by...
Beth Eyre. Hi.
Rudyard is played by...
Felix Trench. Hello.
And Georgie is played by...
Ciara Baxendale. Howdy.
And Eric Chapman.
Hello, I'm Tom Crowley. I'm Eric Chapman and also a writer.
Chapman!
So, welcome. I thought the nicest thing to do was we've many times when we've talked about Wooden Overcoats, we've told everyone how the show came about, what happened. And I think most people who listen to the show are aware of that by now. So I wondered what you guys were thinking on the day that we released 5 years ago, when we actually put that first episode out into the world. David, can I turn to you first?
When the episode first went out into the world, I'd imagine as the time when we first came up with the idea of it, Felix had probably just stepped out of the shower at that point, the flat that we did. I'm sure the water was probably glistening upon his shoulders. The water often glistens upon Felix's shoulders, and I probably remarked upon that and thought, in the light shining off the droplets of water now running down the small of his back is the future of the wooden overcoats, which could go on for seasons, could even go on for 4 seasons of terrific episodes. And I saw our futures intertwined in that moment along with those of everybody else in this programme we're currently recording. And I thought, what a wonderful thing. We might even reach 5 years, potentially, if there's a delay to the 4th season. 5 years. and what a wonderful thing that'll be.
Sorry, David, can you just say that about Felix getting out of the shower again, just because I'm just hitting record on my Zoom?
We'll have an extra 10 minutes of it.
Oh, excellent.
And what about Felix, Tom, Beth, Ciara? You'd recorded the show. It had all been done. Nobody had heard it yet. What did you think the future held for Wooden Overcoats at that point?
I found my tweets.
Oh, well done.
On September 24th, 2015, I tweeted, "It's out, it's out, it's out. Ring the bells, hug your children.
Whoa.
A sitcom is born.
Aww.
Hashtag Wooden Overcoats." Then I tweeted, "We're number 5. We're number 5.
And still are today.
In what?
Yeah, what was the ranking?
I don't want to look it up. I think it was the Euros, wasn't it?
Euro what?
Euro.
The football.
Oh, right, yeah, I see.
Wooden Overcoats was 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd just beaten Denmark.
In Euro 95, yeah, I remember it well. It was good, yeah.
So I think, I remember on that day that me and Andy had sort of worked for some reason, like we often do, till about 2 minutes to midnight. Or probably more likely 3 a.m. before the file got sent up. And then the next day, actually watching it appear on all of the iTunes charts, on the sort of new and noteworthy pages, and realising this is actually a thing. This is going somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was still a question of, will anyone listen to this? You know, that's the sort of main feeling I remember. And not to be cynical, I was also very excited, but there was also the thought that, hey, you know, a lot of people have put a lot of work into promoting this and making sure people are aware that it's coming out. And even so, you know, the first few people that downloaded it straight away, supportive people on day one, getting involved, was lovely, but I had no concept whatsoever of just how many wonderful people would not only listen to it, but give us money to make more.
I think not a lot of people did listen to it. We started tracking download figures from about week 3.
Yes.
And we still don't... I haven't looked at them, but I seem to remember that it was something like 17 people downloaded the 3rd episode on release date.
Yes.
They were all my mum.
And that's still a personal best.
One of them was me.
Oh, great. And me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean-
Pre-Liz being on the show. You were just a fan. I say just a fan. Like, also a housemate of several people in the show.
Well, and that's I can tell you exactly my feelings and thoughts on the day of release, even though I had absolutely nothing to do with the show at the time. I lived with David and Felix and saw how much work and effort and strain and love had gone into it, and I remember all you guys coming around to our flat to talk about it and getting in the way, all those cups of tea. And I remember when it finally released and I listened to it right away and I thought, oh my God, thank God this is excellent. I can look David and Felix in the eyes. All of their efforts have been worth it. Oh man, I mean, you know, you get nervous. But yeah, mercifully, all the hard work was worthwhile. It was great, and then I slowly elbowed my way into the show. So
not that slowly.
Good
Come
job
on, you were
for
there by
Liz.
what, season 2? Come on, that's pretty good.
yeah,
And have done an amazing job making it possible
Yes.
to keep going ever since.
Indeed.
It's a brilliant production team and crew that we've pulled together for all 3 seasons and season 4 when we eventually are able to bring it to you. So we sent out a call for many, many people to send in messages, memories, and questions for all of you about the show. And we've had actually an amazing response from some people involved who you may never have met.
Mainly from Ciara's mum.
17 from Ciara's mum. And some questions that they will be putting to you in person over the course of this evening. Before we come on to those questions, actually, so David, how has the series in your mind changed over like all the seasons since you were writing the first one? Because I'd imagine the world has changed in your head since then.
Yeah, no, I think season 1 is very firmly. It was about the sort of frustration of not knowing how to sort of get started with all the work I really wanted to do. It's firmly about a rivalry. It is about one person desperately trying to take down somebody else who doesn't really know they exist. And it was a very good way of me putting all my petty frustrations and darker thoughts into one area, making it palatable and funny. As the show has gone on, I think the sense of some of the things where it's really about have really come to express themselves. It is still a show which is about a rivalry, but I think increasingly as the show's gone on, it's become about found family, about different sorts of family, about the ways that people can support each other, help each other, even if somebody is a rival. And that's certainly something which, though we can't give too many details away, is something we'll carry on into the fourth and final season. It is a show about people working out what it is they want to do and how they can best do it, whilst the sort of the silliness and the strangeness in the background continues to go on. I think overall it's a show which, despite the fact it's about death, is quite a hopeful and happy show, which is not what I expected it to become. Certainly in the first season, when the writers would keep trying to come up with happy endings, and I said, don't do that, I want it sad. And I want everyone to fail. I want misery. And said, David, please, misery, I yelled. And kept going. And that started to not happen quite so much in the later seasons. And I thought, you know what, some of these people deserve things to go well for them.
Yeah, I remember when we were giving the brief to James Whittle for the theme tune, I got into my head that I just really wanted it to feel like Curb, like to have that like melancholic but very jolly theme tune. So that every time we got to the end of, there was another like deep pit of misery that Rudyard had fallen into, there would always be that kind of like da 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 when it came out. And it didn't end up like that because James correctly read the show as not something that needed that in the long run. But yeah, I think that was when we were going into it. That's kind of what we were going for and trying to make. Like was like the funny misery show. And it's so not that now by end of season 3.
Yeah, it is so beautifully evolved to be about a lot more than that. And I think that is something, as we'll hear, a lot of people appreciate. In fact, I'm going to go over to a question that we've been sent in from Piffling's new switchboard operator.
Hello? Hello, are you there?
I know who that was.
It's Miss Scruple here. I've got a phone call. Putting you through now, dear.
Hi, I hope this isn't coming in too late. My name is Rose. One of my best friends found Wooden Overcoats earlier this summer, and I binged it all in like a week. And I've just finished my second re-listen of the series. I just think Wooden Overcoats is so delightful. I love the characters and the town and the way they're all developing. I cried at the end of season 3 both times. It's just so lovely. Wooden Overcoats hit such a fantastic balance between hilarious and ridiculous and also just like so tender and real. I think about the quote that Bijou said all the time. I am the most important person in the world, and so are you. Was that backwards? You are the most important person in the world, and so am I. It's so stunning. My friend who introduced me to it, between the two of us, we've campaigned to get a lot of our other friends listening as well. And I've got my sister and a couple cousins on it. And slowly but surely, everyone in my life will understand what I mean when I say, enjoy yourself. I just really love Wooden Overcoats a lot. Can't wait for season 4. And I do have, I guess, one kind of production-y question. With so many different writers, how do you work to keep the voicing and the characters consistent? Also, I just have to express my undying love for Madeline. The narrator is a mouse. This is the greatest conceit of maybe anything ever. Thank you so much for Wooden Overcoats, and I can't wait for more.
Oh, thank you, Rose.
Oh, wow.
Love so you. Kind of Rose to send in a a lovely message like that. Very, very thoughtful and kind message, while also hiding from the Blair Witch. I thought that was really... that could be the supreme sacrifice there from Rose, but thank you so much.
I really like...
That was a beautiful
Madeline being
message.
highlighted as well, was Madeline played by Belinda Lang in narration and Holly Campbell in all the mouse squeaks. So a really good fusion of acting talents to create this one character. I suppose in terms of Rose, in terms of the question about scripts and the sort of consistent voice, I suppose usually at the beginning of each season I meet with all the writers. We all come up with ideas either together. Sometimes people come up separately, or they have time to think about it later. But I think there's a great deal of writers being involved in sort of pitching of the ideas up front. And I suppose as the seasons have gone by, it's been easier in a sense to sort of think, oh, I want to play with that character, I want to develop this aspect, I want to do this and that. I suppose one thing is I often, on the whole, rather than giving ideas to writers or indeed plotting the season in advance, saying, I want to do this, this and this, now you're going to do this and this, I like the writers to come up with their ideas first, and I want to see what are the other writers excited by, because if they're excited by something, then the listeners are likely to be excited by it too. And once I find out what the writers want to do, I then start sometimes plotting the rest of the season around it. I'll always have some ideas up front, but I like to sort of plot things around what other people are excited by. When all the scripts are in, and I'm very involved with helping writers do plot stories, and afterwards I do a little polish and sort of brush up myself of scripts to make sure that things are consistent across the series. It's always about just creating things that are consistent. It's never about a writer submitted a script that doesn't work. It is always a case of a scene has been written where Antigone does this, but Antigone also does a similar thing in a later episode, so I sort of get in there to change things up a bit to make sure that things are kept consistent, but there's a good amount of variety. But I think it really comes down to the writers all tapping into the voice of the series, which has been always great to see across the 4 seasons and all the mini seasons we've done. We've had lots of other writers involved, including writers from other podcasts. It's about tapping into that world, and people really want to play in that world. This sort of playground where all the children are actually adults, but they haven't really realised it yet. Tom, as a writer who I've now edited several times, you've always found it absolute torture.
Well, the way we capture the voice of the show is that David just rewrites everything as soon as we send it in. No, that's actually not true at all. No, it's a fantastic process every single time. I have a wonderful time writing for the show. I mean, I have an advantage in that I was there from day one of the idea kind of first germinating and then turning into the show we now know. But I'm also going to correct you a bit, David, because you suggested that welcoming other writers' contributions to the structure of the series is a recent thing. And I have to say, one of the impressive things about you as head writer right from the beginning was that you invited plot ideas straight away. And, the series arc was sort of loosely there when you began, but it was deliberately very simple. The eventual murder mystery bit of fun at the end of series 1 was kind of already in your mind. But other than that, you weren't saying, right, this episode's going to be about Reverend Wavering getting into riding stilts. You have to go write that now. Like, you were very, very permissive with all the writers about contributing ideas early on. And
No
I think
spoilers for season 4.
Where is that episode? Don't give up the stilts material,
as
Crowley.
long as I don't tell them that he falls off them and dies. But you did straight away let us all contribute our own ideas for episode plots. I mean, I wrote The Little Death, where Antigone goes to watch French cinema. We're all drunk here.
For sure.
I wrote The Little Death, Series 1, Episode 3. Antigone goes to watch some pretentious French cinema. And that, I think, was just an idea that we had sort of spitballed together at some point and said, well, what would she do for fun? And we thought, well, go and see some really depressing continental cinema. And that was something that was part of that process of just quite organically absorbing ideas and letting the writers tread their own path to some degree, which I think hugely contributed to Series 1. So you're a liar.
Yeah, in many ways, yes, and I will consistently lie throughout this programme.
You also read through,
Yes, I suppose I do have a weird thing where once I have all the scripts in, I take each character one by one and read through all of their dialogue across the whole season in a row, doing as best an approximation of their voice as I can, to try and make sure that the voice is consistent, that the dialogue is
Let's
consistent.
hear them.
What better time to hear them? What better time than our 5th anniversary?
Do the Georgie.
Georgie, I need to get out some sort of dialogue to do it in. So,
what are you great at, David?
I'm great at doing dialogue.
Let's just grab, because we can edit all this out later. So I need to try and find one where you actually say a lot. Okay, what about this one that Tom wrote? Where's Georgie? Okay. You're happy now, Eric? Yeah, Chapman, Eric, you can't do this. Actually, I don't actually do her actual accent because I can't.
That sounded spot on to me.
Stop
That was
saying things.
It was like there were two Ciara Baxendales on the call right now.
Chapman, think of the worst 5-word sentence possible. Mum and Dad are back. Oh dear. I just rephrased it.
Imagine living with that.
He's what? Eric Chapman, Mayor of Piffling. It's repulsive. Just think of him up there on his throne, clutching his gavel. We'll never live it down. Gavel, exactly. We can't let a man like that govern this whole entire island. He's got to be stopped. I do that. And
but then we all do Antigone.
Just across the square.
Yes, everyone.
No, shut up. What are you saying?
Spiders.
I like doing Sean Baker as the mayor. He's not even wearing a tie.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I
know, so good.
It's something I try to do, and it amuses me, if nothing else. At home by myself, sat here, not able to leave my flat, just reading the scripts out again, all in order, doing all the voices myself. That's
Well, on the subject of quarantine, just for a second, and turning to some sort of nice little character trait.
Feel a segue coming on, guys.
I am going to go back to Piffling's brand new switchboard operator.
Hello, we've got a message from Jam. I'm putting you through.
Hello, Wooden Overcoats team. So, firstly, I would just like to say that Wooden Overcoats has been my anxiety cushion during this pandemic. It's such a wholesome thing to come back to again and again, and I love it so much, so thank you for that. I have a couple questions. So, the first one is, how have the people of Piffling been dealing with quarantine? So, any ideas that you might have about that, I would love to hear. And question number 2 is, what type of birthday cake would each character choose? Happy birthday, and I'm so looking forward to season 4.
Aww.
Oh, thank you very much.
Happy birthday to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we should ask our central cast what sort of cakes and what their characters would be doing.
Okay, here we go.
Absolutely. I think Antigone is the one I'd like to hear first.
Yeah.
Cake-wise, I think something with very, very dark, very rich chocolate, with coffiny decorations or something very black. Maybe spider's webs. Maybe something that was good in the mortuary. In terms of quarantine, I don't think she would mind it particularly. I think she'd be fine. It's a good time to get on with things.
Would she even have noticed?
Lots of inventing to do. Well, it depends what season, doesn't it? To begin with, no. It's possible she hasn't noticed.
I like the idea that in the arc of Antigone gradually sort of blossoming like a beautiful flower socially, that she would just one day decide, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to hug somebody. And she'd go and find, let's be honest, probably Bill or Tanya, and just throw her arms around and say, you're a person, I appreciate you. And they'd scream and pull their masks up over their face, squirt her with anti-bac, and she's going, I don't know what's happening, and run back inside. And that would put paid to her social development for another 5-10 years.
Rudyard, Felix.
There's an ongoing trait of Rudyard that doesn't get picked up on much, which is that he is coffee mad.
That's true.
Every time coffee is
that.
brought up, he is brought to an absolute standstill and can't think of anything other than having that coffee. So he probably would want a coffee cake. As far as pandemic is going, I suspect that he's got a bit of a scheme to try and get as much of the village out and about and mingling, and spreading the virus.
Does Rudyard vote Conservative?
There's only 2 candidates, Desmond and you.
But before that, there was the underpants
Oh,
guy.
yes. Major Undercrackers.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
Major Undercrackers.
Created by me, again.
Yes. I mean, Piffling Vale is essentially like it's a sort of a low level of tyranny, isn't it? It's mainly despotism, and yet no one minds. Oh dear. I hope.
Well, it's a one-party system. Like there's still democracy, and everyone turns up and votes, but no one has stood against Desmond because no one could be bothered. That's the thing.
That's the implication.
And I think there's. Well, I mean, I don't want to get too sidetracked by the political realities of Piffling, but like,
It's a benevolent dictatorship.
So we've got coffee cake, chocolate cake, which you can't eat.
Ciara, what is Georgie's birthday cake?
So I'm thinking like a treasure chest of cakes within a cake of every cake flavour you can think of. And Georgie would definitely have just baked it herself because she's great at baking cakes.
But wait, Ciara, hang on. I can think of 3 birthday cake flavours. Can you really guarantee all 3?
Lemon drizzle, cheesecake flavour, chocolate cake flavour, carrot cake
4. Nice.
flavour, walnut and hazelnut, and rainbow flavour, and orange cake, and chocolate orange.
Good.
And velvet cake, and that one with the cream in the middle. Sponge.
That's your standard
flavour.
That's your standard birthday cake.
What would the treasure chest cake be made of? Would that be a gingerbread?
It's also made of
chest? Or is it just made of cake as well? Right, no, sorry.
You know,
cut
online
through-
when they've got these things that are all made of cake, and it's like a dead person or like a Nintendo or a fish. It'd be one of those.
Why did you go to dead person first?
Yes.
Wooden overcoats.
The Holy Trinity.
It'd be a
dead
life-size
person,
coffin.
Nintendo.
Or a treasure chest.
Oh, God.
Something exciting, something a bit out there,
Yes.
you know? It's not just a cake.
And how is Georgie dealing with lockdown, Ciara?
Bloody brilliant. I feel like she'd be one of them people who gained like 11 million skills and's like, I learned 15 languages playing the ukulele whilst riding a donkey inside the house kind of vibe. Smashing it, basically. She'd be smashing it in every way.
Absolutely.
Quarantine.
How about
King of quarantine.
How about across the square at Chapman's?
Well, I think we all can be in agreement that he would find a way to turn the Blonde Supreme into a cake, and it would be every bit as successful. He'd make just one for himself, everyone would have a slice, and then he'd have to end up franchising it into like a multinational cake business because everyone liked it so much. I'm also, David, I'm going to pitch you the episode now, right? So Rudyard notices Chapman's is receiving these huge like palletfuls of hand sanitizer, antibacterial wipes and face masks. And he thinks, oh, gosh, what a dreadful man. He's hoarding all of the crucial PPE. I'm going to phone the press. Sid, Jennifer Delacroix. And then he calls them all round saying, look, it's an expose. I'm mounting a journalistic expose of Chapman's for hoarding crucial equipment. And then the second they arrive, they see him freely donating all of these products to the people of Piffling. And it ends up being an enormous PR coup for Chapman's. I think that's what would happen.
Well, I'm afraid we've already got that as the series finale.
Oh, not again! Spoiled it.
What did we say your birthday cake would be?
Blonde Supreme.
Or,
Blonde Supreme.
A Blonde Supreme cake.
White chocolate and caramel.
On confection, we have another message that is coming in.
Hello. I've got another telegram for you.
John is amazing.
It's from Rachel, and it says, hello. I have been a fan of Wooden Overcoats for a couple of years now, and it has stood firm as my favourite comedy podcast since I first listened to it. My question is, how long did it take Chapman to get through all of Antigone's memento mori chocolates? Does he eat them when he needs a quick nap? Thanks, and happy 5-year.
Great question.
Good question.
Oh, wow.
He didn't let me
Ellie
finish.
Dickens.
He's getting through lockdown by binging on Memento Moris and sleeping through it.
Can we talk about Ellie Dickens for a second?
Ellie
Dickens is.
Miss Scruple.
What a hero.
What an absolute hero.
A legend.
A one-scene wonder in season 1. It's like that one scene in Tom's episode.
But she's become one of your utility characters.
Yes, it's just, I think Miss Scruple has now been sort of a local busybody. She's helped with mysteries. She's been a secretary for the mayor briefly. Whenever we need someone to fulfill a role, I think Miss Scruple can kind of do everything and show up and usually slow things down to an extent where nothing is actually sort of happening. I think she's one of my favourite characters put in there. And I think, Ellie Dickens, what a wonderful performance.
She is incredible. And I will say we will be hearing from Ellie before this episode is out.
Excellent.
Miss Scruple seems to be able to do every single skill that's handed to her, just not very well. She's also the organist.
Yep.
Yes.
In Wedding in the Church.
Like she's sort of like old Georgie. Like Georgie with a bit of arthritis.
Say, she's loopering Georgie just very slowly. She hasn't got round to it yet. She forgot what she's there for.
I'll take her in as my apprentice.
Yeah. Oh, no, hang on. No, Georgie would have to looper her, I think. But anyway, that'll come. That's for season 4. And sorry for spoiling it again.
Bring it.
I'm going to throw straight over to another message.
Hello. Oh, now I've got a call here from Nico in Israel. Oh, Israel. Oh, where's the socket? Oh, where's the? Oh, there we are. Putting you through now, dear.
So, excluding Georgie, because that would be cheating, who in Piffling Vale do you think would make the best partner, either in general or for you personally, be it a business partner, life partner, sports partner, whichever?
Oh, dear. Gosh.
Who would like to take this one first?
I'm going to say straight away, and I think this is in absolutely any capacity of being a partner, whether that's a business partner, a romantic partner, or anything, would have to be Bill. Because I feel like Bill has proven himself time and again to be adaptable, sensitive. He's a good protector. Come away, Tanya. Knows when to step in. And I think also, has maybe people feel strange about the relationship with Tanya coming up so quickly after Jerry's demise, but I think he was there for her. I think he helped her deal with losing Jerry. I think he's a sensitive person, a competent person, and a kind person. And so that's why my pick is Bill.
Also has a wonderful sense in paintings. That's the other thing we learned from.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's an anarchist, which makes him exciting.
Yes, yeah.
That is true.
Kira, Georgie, your character has been excluded from this.
Well, I would have picked Georgie.
I think everyone.
As would have Georgie, I think it's fair to say.
Georgie would have picked Georgie. Kira would have picked Georgie, but as Georgie isn't allowed, I'd probably pick...
There he is.
Oh, thank goodness Bill's here. Bill, would you join me in my romantic adventures and as my business partner? Hi, Bill. Bill,
Okay.
it's the actor Tom Crowley here. We've been asked whether which resident of Piffling would we like to have as our ideal perfect partner, whether it be in a relationship or a business venture, and I picked you. How does that make you feel?
We all want to shag Bill.
Oh, nice. So this is the actor Tom Crowley.
Yes, this isn't Eric Chapman. This is the actor
rather than Eric
and writer Tom Crowley.
Oh well, in that case, then yes.
Oh, great, thanks.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll contact your people to make the relevant arrangements, and I'll see you next Monday.
Excellent. I'm not doing anything.
A big hand for Bill.
Hooray, Bill, a.k.a. the actor Pip Gladwin.
Wow, thank you very much.
Yay,
Thank you.
And Mr. Bendix, of course.
Go. Yeah, come on.
And the bearded lady.
Yes. Many other incredible roles.
What's the name of the
throughout
magician?
series.
Zones, I am a genius. Zones, I am a genius.
Valentino, something
Darius Valentino.
Darius Valentino. Pip Gladwin, the secret source of Wooden Overcoats.
We've got a couple of actors in Overcoats who act as flexes that we bring in for all of these small characters. Pip and then Hoy Campbell, who does the Mouse and Tanya and so on. And
Sarah Burton in the first
Sarah
series.
Burton, there's one. And Max
Tyler, who
He was mostly Jerry before we killed him.
That's true, but I wanted to say, because we killed Jerry and we sort of didn't realise that meant we had to lose Max, which was the real...
Murdered him.
Going way back to like series plotting and character development and stuff like that, one thing I love about our series is the fact that every character, whether they have a tiny role or not, is fully formed in the world and has the opportunity to become something bigger, as demonstrated by Bill, Tanya, Jerry.
And Darius Valentino, especially.
Zones!
In terms of partner, I thought the obvious answer was Madeline. The
Oh,
clearly most competent resident of Piffling.
Yeah.
Best friend accountant.
You'd have to find...
award-winning writer, best-selling
Yeah.
author, I mean, how could you... And fits in small spaces and can rearrange funeral flowers.
You have to fight that crab for her, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, the crab was a perfect gentleman. We know this now.
Yes.
I think for me, it's possibly Reverend Wavering. Because
He's a good guy.
Like, he's just a good bloke. And there's something really nice about having all that doubt in your life.
Is there?
Like,
I thought that was the only major drawback. Constant doubt.
Was that not a
Trying to
joke?
make a dinner reservation.
Yeah.
Can you
Oh, no,
imagine
9.
that?
No, 8:30. No, 9.
But having a partner where, like, you just know the one problem with them is pretty good. There's like, don't worry, I'll just make the call. It's fine. Like, you know, we're going to have dinner at 6. God's real. We're fine. You know
how to approach it. Yeah.
Would anyone else like to jump in on this one? Any suggestions from anyone else?
We're not allowed Georgie Crusoe, but no one said anything about Nana Crusoe.
Yeah.
Nana Crusoe.
You have killed off a lot of characters in this
Yeah, a lot of
episode,
characters
David.
we love,
I mean,
played by actors we love. So thanks
lot of-
very much.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
I've got a live one. Lady Templar.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
What a shout.
Yes, of course.
She's
Actually-
smart. She's clever. She's a kind of nightmare in a
She's
fun
messy
way.
and she loves
Jump
drama.
out of a hot air balloon and sort of reach the ground.
Fiercely independent.
Absolutely fierce. Yeah.
A very dashing eye patch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
yes.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, God, yes. That was the one Steve Hudson stopped us, right?
Oh yeah. Steve, who is the incredible actor who played Mayor Desmond in series
Hooray for
1
Steve.
with all his wonderful growls and
good.
laughs. There was one line that David had written, which was about her having her eye taken out, wasn't it?
It was
Originally,
a deadly coconut shy. It was a deadly
Yes.
coconut shy, which said, and he had something like,
Don't be a fool, Rudyard. It's all you can see. It's knocked her eye out already.
and he took me aside and said, I'm not sure about this line.
I just think it's a bit much because that would hurt, wouldn't it? And I think she'd be in hospital. She wouldn't be there having this.
And I said, no, you're right. Oh, and he said, could it be a leg? Or an arm
He
or
knocked her
something.
leg off.
Oh, I don't know. What about a glass eye? You know, she's already lost a glass eye already. He went,
Oh, yes, that's very funny. I like the glass.
I mean, Karen went, and in a way, actually, oddly enough, I think so the idea of a coconut smashing a glass eye is actually a far more potently violent image than the one we had before. But he was happy. I was very happy.
In all these years, I never pictured the glass eye smashing. I thought it'd just been pointed out. Like, and
I'm
I
sure
thought
she...
I'd been knocked out and rolling under
now
a
I'm
head.
picturing
sure she
Katrina
could
Knox with her eye
replace it.
socket full of broken glass. This is the worst birthday ever.
That's more
Sexy,
Wow.
sexy Lady Templar.
That would hurt.
It's all on audio, so we didn't realise how violent the show actually is. But oh no.
that is true. We get away with a hell of a lot in our sound effects.
Can I revise my shout to Marlena Magdalena?
Oh,
I was going to say her, but then I thought it was too obvious, you know?
Yeah, it is a bit obvious, isn't it?
Especially as a business partner, to be
Yeah.
honest. If we're having the option
Yeah.
of different kinds of partner, like
Yeah.
that woman's running a successful... To be able to run a full circus on the island of
Yeah.
Piffling with its
Yeah.
limited
With that
residents.
width.
Travelling
You
circus.
gotta... A traveling circus. That's some business now.
That's it. And we know it just goes up and down again all day, all year. Just to one end of the island and back again. They're still running.
One down to the other.
That's
And
impressive.
like many festival shows, the audience is probably members of the circus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just rotating, paying for tickets. It's just...
Like
I mean,
Edinburgh
But
Fringe.
it's insanely profitable.
yeah.
I mean, for good business partners, I mean, Herbert Koff, he's doing all right.
He is doing all right.
He's keeping a cinema open, despite the fact he only seems to have like one person who goes to it. So he's doing incredibly well in managing to keep this a
You've
going
got to
concern.
think he owns the land. He's got
Oh, yeah.
to own the land to do that.
And also, we've never actually seen anyone ride the donkey.
Mr. Crumble.
Mr.
No.
Crumble, yeah.
Mr. Crumbly's got
He
donkey
just
ride.
takes Mr. Crumble for a walk.
Georgie was riding it round in quarantine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Can I say, it's only just sunk into me now that the Piffling Vale Circus had 40 plus clowns in it.
Yeah, to begin with. Yeah.
What do you mean?
That must be as a percentage of the population of the
Half.
island.
Half.
Half the island is literal
exactly.
clowns. The other half is
It's an incredibly violent
metaphorical.
series. In that one season 2, season finale, I got rid of 50% of the island in just one fell swoop, and
Amazing.
no one noticed.
Well,
You
that's the other
monster.
town. There's Piffling Vale, and then there's Piffling Circus Town up in the north.
Coolerville up in the north, yeah.
Also, I've noticed we've had a lot of other town chat as if Piffling Vale is a town. It is not yet a town.
It
Not
is
yet a
not
town.
yet
No,
a
it's
We're
a
town.
village.
utopian thinkers, Andy. That's the thing. We all back Mayor Desmond's vision.
Oh, sorry for being a realist. Okay.
Well, I say you're a dissident.
But with that behaviour, Tom, towards the funds, I've got another question that seems to be coming in.
Hello, it's Miss Scruple here. I'm getting more and more of these telegrams. They're piling up all over the place.
Are they?
Look, I've got one here. And it says, happy birthday.
Right.
This podcast has held a close place in my heart for a long while now, and I've always wondered, how much do the Funs and Georgie actually consider Eric a friend? They put up a front that they absolutely loathe him and that they think a man's a monster. But there's all those moments where they genuinely seem to enjoy his presence. As much as they refuse to say it, it seems to me that they do consider him a friend, and that Eric does too, but he just doesn't push it for their sake. Thank you for all the lovely work you've done with this podcast, Nisha. Oh, there's a question.
Can I just say that person's reading of Eric is completely correct. Eric's very sensitive. He definitely considers them a friend, and he would never push the issue just out of horror at making them feel uncomfortable. He'd never want that.
I think that's a very correct view of that relationship. It's something which I think has sort of gone back and forth as the series has gone on. Having a rivalry of somebody across the street is great for sort of plots and stories, but ultimately at some point you kind of need to bring people together and then sort of explode them again and keep doing that. I was going to ask actually our actors here, how they felt about the sort of dynamic of these characters as it sort of developed in terms of their attitudes to Eric and so on.
Well, Chapman's secretly a werewolf, so he's this time just been sizing them up as a potential
season
meal.
4, Tom.
Oh, sorry, season 4.
Tom, please.
No! A werewolf vampire hybrid, and he's just looking for his next meal. That's my answer.
So what do we think about Chapman, lads?
I think Georgie just sees Chapman as quite useful sometimes.
Interesting.
Oh, nice.
Cold.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, she tolerates him. I don't think she hates him. She sees the benefits.
I think she's annoyed by him in the way that anyone sort of is when somebody's got a crush on them and they feel a bit like they don't want to hurt their feelings, but it's just like, okay, but just leave it now, you know?
He kind of got the picture with that, though, didn't he,
Over
Chapman?
time. It took him a while.
He kind of got the picture. He was getting there.
What do the Funs think about Chapman at the moment?
I think Rudyard sort of goes back and forward a bit. I think after season 1, he's definitely accepted him as part of the community, and that's the big shift, as he's sort of not trying to drive him out of town anymore. But he's also driven and painfully aware that this is a man who has stolen his livelihood. It's not like that is not something that I think rationally you can go, well, that's just market forces, but it's not something that you kind of forgive and forget.
Yeah.
But he also knows that you kind of have to just get on with your lives and find a way to live with it and a way to all live together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful.
Stunned.
I think that's
Very poignant.
a lovely, sincere silence.
I think,
Especially in a place like Piffling Vale, when, I think what you're talking about with the word community, like, there's kind of no getting away from people. That's the, Dave was talking about found family and things earlier, but that's one of the great things about the setting, I think, is that these are people who are drawn together by circumstance. And even if you aren't best friends with someone, there is a certain point where you have to function and have a modicum of respect by just being part of the community.
Yeah. And Rudyard prizes the community above anything else. That's, I think you once said, David, that he could tell you the history of Piffling to the last 500 years, but didn't have any idea what was going on in Dover, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think community being one of the sort of important aspects of the series. I think it's correct this idea of there's sort of toleration of Eric because it's easier to do so, and he's quite a pleasant sort of guy and everything. And as the series goes on, I think they find more opportunities and more common ground. And to be honest, that's sort of the core dynamic of Fun Funerals and Chapman, how it's changed over the years, is a very key fundamental part of season 4, as we will find out when we make and release it. But it's something we sort of go, I really wanted to look at, because there is that sort of tension in the middle of, yes, we want them to be quite friendly towards each other because it creates nice dialogue and scenes and mutual support. But I think it would be dishonest to push that without recognising the fact that this person did come in. Clearly, not only just with more sort of maybe talent and drive, but certainly more resources and more finances than Fun Funerals. And that, it was a direct threat to their livelihood. And that is something that still needs to be there, that he bears a genuine threat towards how they live and function. He does have all these resources. He does seem to have a business which takes over about 50% of the island by now, with a monorail and Lord knows how many floors and how many businesses.
I disagree about Rudyard personally. I think he only cares about Piffling as a vehicle for reaffirming his own position in the world as he sees it. I don't think he fully understands that other humans have their own feelings and opinions if they don't service his position in that community. That's my feeling about Rudyard.
Well, you can play him that way.
Well, Eric.
Very Eric thing to say.
I also think, I agree about Chapman, though. I do think that his obliviousness about completely eradicating every other business on the island is his greatest sin.
Yes.
Not just the funerals either, opening a cafe and a pub and everything else in a steak restaurant.
He is the Walmart
exactly,
of our world.
Yeah, and that's his greatest sin.
Well, it's the big shout out to Rudyard Makes a Friend in season 2 when we get Jerry the Baker and his view of Chapman, who's running a funeral home and still decimating every other industry on the island.
I think Jerry is, despite also being one of our most sort of unequivocal villains and clearly manipulative of Rudyard, and he is a baddie, also has a fairly sort of genuine sort of grievance, which is my business has been I've been put out of business by this person who didn't need to open his own bakery where we already had this one.
He's very much the Thanos of Wooden Overcoats.
I've always seen Jerry as the hero.
He has a motivation that has weight behind it, and there's a point to what he wants to do, but his reaction is disproportional, and that's the reason we dislike him. Jerry.
Good old Jerry. Bring him back. Bring back Jerry, season 4. Come on.
Let's go to another beautiful listener message.
Hello, it's Miss Scruple here. I've got a call for you from... Oh, it's a transatlantic call from Newt. Pushing you through now, dear.
Hey guys, congratulations on 5 years. I was a fan of the show first back in 2015 when I was in high school.
Yes, quite right.
And as people of that age are wont to do, once the first season finished, I immediately got out my laptop and wrote some fan fiction about it.
Oh.
And I posted it to a website and didn't really think anything of it. But a few months later, I remember I was listening to an interview that Andy and David did on the podcast Radio Drama Revival.
Yeah.
And they mentioned one that I remember the words exactly, said, got the voice of Madeline absolutely perfect. And mine was the only one on that website at the time. So I remember thinking, oh my God, the creators of Wooden Overcoats found my fan fiction of the show and read it, and they think I'm a good writer. Oh. And that was such a memorable moment for me, especially because, I was just starting to get into podcasts. I wasn't used to that level of fan-creator, interaction. So first off, I wanted to say thank you guys for being so generous with my, at the time, definitely not fantastic writing skills. And second, I wanted to say thank you so much for helping inspire me as a writer. Since then, I've put out my own podcast, finished that one, am starting another, and I'm in college, which is just crazy considering how time has passed. So yeah, congratulations again on 5 years, and I just know season 4 will be amazing. Thanks, guys. My question is, Wooden Overcoats is a show about death, which is a very taboo topic, but it's also dipped its toes a little bit into portraying mental health. I'm on the autism spectrum, And I've seen a lot of my experiences and the things that I do in Rudyard, and I know a lot of other autistic fans have as well. So I wanted to ask, was it intentional, just sort of writing Rudyard as, I guess, coded as autistic, or did that just sort of develop over time as you fleshed out his character more?
What a roller coaster of emotions I felt during the asking of that question. I mean, I was so terrified when it was mentioned that we'd seen the bit of fan fiction, and I do remember that one, and it was very good. I'm really surprised that there wasn't a plug for the podcast that came out in that. Have you cut that,
know what it is.
No, I haven't. I think that's genuinely like
Genuinely
we are
not
left in a mystery.
I want to know what it is. I want to see the development of that bit of fan fiction into what became their podcast. I'd love to see
It's a Madeline spin-off.
Absolutely fantastic to know that you were the person who wrote that particular story that we sort of made a oblique reference to on the radio drama revival. I think I would also specifically state, when we first created Wooden Overcoats, the idea that people would not only enjoy the show, but would be so inspired by the show to go out and create their own things. Because we've had people who have sort of done pictures, and they've done videos, and they've written fiction based on the show. It is absolutely incredible to see that we've inspired that sort of creativity, and we are really excited by that. I would say that when it comes to specifically sort of the fiction, I think we read the first few stories because there was a pure massive novelty that people were doing this at all. And then quite early on made the conscious decision not to read any more of them, partly of a sort of, not wanting to be too influenced by what people were writing, but also because we thought people want to be able to play with these characters and play in our world without the creators looking over their shoulder. So it isn't something that we sort of really indulged in or read ever since those very early days. But I am still utterly delighted to hear that you were really taken with the fact that, because it was a brilliant story, and I'm really glad that you caught the voice of Madeline. I think when it comes to the second part of your point, which was to do with the mental health of characters and the mental background of our characters, I would state from that Rudyard was not consciously created as an autistic character or somebody with autism. So I can't, I want to make that quite clear that we're not saying that the character is something that they're not. But what I would say about these characters is that I think when we engage with characters that who we care about and we enjoy and we like, everyone's individual interpretation of their character, what they see in that character, they sort of shared experiences of what the character does and how they behave and how one behaves and experiences we've had. I think they're all entirely valid. We often have listeners saying that they see elements of themselves in characters in Piffling Vale, and that they take a great deal of joy in that, and they feel that with the character voicing something that they've privately felt or held close to them, that they feel much more heard somehow. I say there are many aspects to the characters which are almost either sort of incidental or things we hadn't consciously thought. But when our listeners say that they recognise something in a character and something that of tremendous meaning to their own lives and experiences, I'm always thrilled, especially if it's sort of helped them in some way, or they found it entertaining, or they've just made it feel warm, or it's made them smile and carry on with their day much happier than they did before. That's a tremendous thing for us. And we always, when people say that, we're utterly thrilled. And thank you very much for your message, because it was such a lovely message to receive.
It's so nice. And just to build on that, I think, everyone who comes to this show comes from many different perspectives and brings a lot of what they bring to the table. And as a result, I think there are a huge amount of wonderful, happy accidents that let people have ways into the show. But again, thank you so much for your question. It's really lovely.
I'm going to have another story of someone who's been affected by their show through their life. It's someone quite a few of us, I think, met at the live shows. So over to Miss Scruple.
Hello, me again. You've got another telegram from
God help us.
Gemma. It says, congrats on your upcoming 5th birthday. I started listening when I was an aspiring mortuary worker. Now I am a full Antigone level mortician. I can now fully relate to her desire to make people smell their very best in death. I find cherry is my go-to scent currently, in case anyone wondered. Not only have you created a wonderful show, but I love meeting you all at the live events. Thank you so much for everything you've done and continue to do. Mortuary Gem.
Yes, hello.
Isn't that useful?
Hello, Mortuary Gem.
Hello, Mortuary Gem.
That's a lovely message.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
On your...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, fully fledged
Congratulations. And
mortician
Eric Chapman
now.
endorses Cherry as well.
fantastic.
That's important to say. Cherry's a real standby.
I definitely remember sort of Gem at the very, I think in the early sort of live show, saying that she was sort of training to be involved with some mortuary stuff.
I remember.
Yeah, and does a really, really interesting blog. And a while ago did ask if I'd like to have a, sort of a tour around a mortuary to see, so I can actually know what the thing was that I was writing about. So I shall certainly have to take her up on it. But no, I've loved seeing Gem, the live shows. And it's terrific that she's actually had this journey whilst the show is being made and released.
Yeah, some incredible mortuary stories already
Yeah.
as well. I already had them by Series 3. Yeah.
I'm sure Jem knows far more about the undertaking business than we have known at any point during the production as well.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely,
So,
and somehow
please
doesn't
write in any
hate us.
mistakes we've made. We won't read them, but please do, if it's helpful to you.
I've been kind enough
write them
not
down.
to point out the many things we must have got wrong.
Absolutely.
Years.
I'd also say a wonderful sort of theme that we've got over the live shows and over the course of things is people giving us scented, embalming fluid scented things.
Scented candles, cakes. Lovely cakes.
I've still got the very end of my cinnamon and clementine jar candle.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. I've saved the end of it
I've got clementine candle.
to light over a celebratory drink when we finish Series 4. It's
Very
in a
nice.
cupboard ready to go.
Someday.
Yeah.
No, the response of listeners engaging with the show to that extent in creating these things is absolutely incredible.
Oh, absolutely astonishing.
It's been great. We've all been surrounded by these amazing fan creations. And in fact, in the emails for requests for messages for the birthday, we had some more beautiful fan art that came through of morticians' equipment and fun funerals business cards that were just stunning. So thank you, everyone.
I mean, it's astonishing that anybody takes any time to make something out of what we've made, quite frankly. Can we all agree?
Yeah,
it's
it's
incredible.
wonderful.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
an
beautiful.
experience which
Yeah.
I don't think any of us has had at this level before, certainly. And it's humbling is the word.
just
Yeah.
I haven't had anything before or since. But, I've made a few things with, like, BBC and that, which have, in theory, larger audiences, and no one's ever bothered to draw a thing of the thing that I've been involved in. And it's so lovely.
I'll draw you.
No, it's
Yeah, but please, thanks, Beth. That was great. If you could do the John Kearns Christmas show, I'm really proud
We'll all
of
draw Andy. That's the promise here. That's the 5th anniversary promise.
So, just diving back to some more memories from the show, here's another surprise member of the team with a message.
Hello, Miss Scruple here. I've got a phone call from Ella. Putting you through now, dear.
Hey, happy birthday, Wooden Overcoats! Woo! There has been a request for happy memories. So, hi, my name's Ella. I was a runner on season 3. Everyone was very nice. And I think that, maybe my best Wooden Overcoats memory was when you were recording the end of season 3. And you were recording, I think it was the balloon scene, and I was sitting in the studio with a little script making notes, and Andy and John were looking at the desk and listening, and everyone was doing a great job. And I remember I lost my granddad a couple years ago, but there was just something about that entire episode, but the way that scene was written that really sort of reminded me of both the sad things about losing him, but also the comfort and love of my friends and family. And so I remember I sort of burst into tears. And I distinctly remember John turning and looking at me and sort of just grinning and going, yes! And that was delightful and perfect. And thank you all for everything you've done and all of your amazing work. You are a group of fantastic people, and you have made a beautiful thing that has certainly made my life better. And it has been a privilege to be a very, very small part of it. So happy birthday, Wooden Overcoats! Woo!
Hey.
Isn't that lovely?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
You're
Thank
right,
you,
Miss
Ella. Thank
Scruple,
you for
it
being
is.
our runner on season 3. That's not a small part of it. That's not a small part of anything. My goodness. I thought Ella was going to say John turned to her and said, "Where's my coffee?" When
that would be worse.
Rather than just like cheering at her pain.
Horrendous.
What a monster.
Cappuccino, 2 sugars. I thought that was going to be the story.
Thank you so much, Ella, for that message. It's really beautiful. It was so good working with you on the show.
And indeed, who wrote one of our fun fragments of the autumn cleaning.
Yes.
As well.
Weird that she wouldn't bring that up.
No,
on season 3 doesn't even mention that she wrote some of it.
Wrote part of it.
I have. Yeah. I brought it up now. We liked recording it very much.
I wonder if that question's not maybe the time to talk about the shift to dealing with death in the show.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've spent a lot of time making very silly jokes about people getting knocked down by a bicycle at the bottom of a mine shaft, and then also the end of season 3. And I have definitely, even in my small role, have had a lot of people coming up and talking about how much Wooden Overcoats has helped people with their grief or cheered people up or given them some relationship to death.
So just to parenthesize there, Liz keeps underplaying herself. She just said small role. Without Liz, we wouldn't have anyone looking after our finances. No one would be making contracts.
And filing taxes.
No one would... But filing our bloody taxes.
I tried to write a contract once and I accidentally sold a kidney. So
Andy would...
And now I own that kidney,
right.
so
Liz owns
it's
that
gone
kidney.
great for
If it weren't
me.
for Liz, Andy would literally be piecemeal right now, so we need to thank her for that.
Absolutely. But yes, that episode seems to have had a really important role for a lot of people. I'm going to throw straight to the switchboard again.
Hello.
Yep.
Now I've got a message for you from Peter Wicks.
Yes.
That's nice. Here goes.
Hello there, Wooden Overcoats. Wow, the happiest of happy birthdays to you. You're such a wonderful, heartbreaking, hilarious, beautifully written and performed show, and it's great that you are celebrating such a milestone birthday today. I love you. You're brilliant. And I just wanted to share some of my fondest memories of you. My name's Peter Wicks, and I was lucky enough to have been a part of the Wooden Overcoats live shows for a very long time. I played Reverend Wavering, I played Herbert Cough, I played all sorts. It was great fun. It was especially just wonderful being able to perform those amazing scripts in front of a live audience. It's just electric. But I think my fondest memory of performing those shows in particular was the finale of season 3, putting the fun in funerals. It's such an emotional episode as it is, but to be able to perform that in front of a crowd was something else. And it was just great, kind of sitting back there and watching Ciara Baxendale's fantastic, just tour de force performance as Georgie, as she goes through all the pain and anguish of having to say goodbye to Nana Crusoe. I was also having, this wonderful moment of Desi and Nigel finally getting hitched. It's just a beautiful, beautiful episode. But my favourite moment, and the one that just always sticks in my mind, was the very end of the episode when Rudyard, Antigone, Georgie and Madeline all take off in the hot air balloon, and that beautiful, slow, gorgeous piano music by James Whittle just starts playing as Madeline narrates their journey up into the sky, and just being able to perform that to an audience was magical, just beyond beautiful. Now, before I choke up, I just wanted to ask a question, maybe 2 questions. I'll try just one, linked to that beautiful music by James Whittle. I was just wondering if any of you have a favourite piece of music from the series. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me your favourite musical motif. Or here's the second question. I just wanted to know, Wooden Overcoats is a phenomenally erotically charged show. We all know this. We realise this.
Agreed, yes,
From
yes, quite.
saucy French films to delightful erotic fiction. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, my question is this. What is the undisputed sexiest moment in Wooden Overcoats to date? And can we expect many more in season 4? Okay, thank you. And apologies for all of that. That was just waffle. But yeah, have fun.
What a hero.
What a
Peter Wicks, hello. Oh,
Peter
one of the most
Wicks.
lovely people I've ever met in my life. Yes, so see, and it says, Liz was saying earlier, it was an episode which I think, having set myself the challenge for the end of season 2 of wanting to write a finale where I took an entirely ridiculous situation and tried to find the drama in it, I wanted to flip it in the end of season 3, take a very serious situation and try to find not necessarily just sort of the humour in it, but certainly the lightness and the sort of some kind of happiness and ability to go forward. Because having realised this is a show which is about death, and with all the silly jokes attached to it, that, you know, occasionally we should sort of touch upon the genuine seriousness of the subject. And it was, you know, even my own grandmother had been diagnosed with an illness shortly after I started work on season 1, and she passed away shortly during the process of writing season 3. And so, though, you know, Nana Crusoe was never based upon her, there was an element of that in the writing. I thought I would like to treat the subject with the seriousness it deserves. Certainly, there comes a point when you're trying to write a season finale of a script which is approximately 60 minutes. And you started writing it about 2 days before it's due to be recorded, and indeed have finished writing it as half the series has already been recorded, to a bunch of actors who quite understandably would have liked to have seen the script weeks ago so they could properly prepare for it. Where you sit there and go, I don't know how to end this script. And you think, well, we do have a fantastic musical composer, James Whittle. I could literally, you know, it's 4 a.m. I'd like to go to sleep. I should just write, they get into the balloon and there some wonderful music plays. And I wrote that in, entirely passing the buck to James, who then came back with the most wonderful piece of music. And if you ask me my favourite piece of music in the show, there are some absolutely terrific pieces, like the sort of a Mexican restaurant music we had in season 1. There's some the French cinema music is absolutely terrific. My favourite piece is the music at the end of series 3, which is absolutely beautiful. It says far more than the writing could have, which is just as well, because I had just entirely collapsed at that point. And it was tremendous listening to it in the live show. I mean, in terms of the most sexually charged erotic moments, I don't believe that a single scene in Wooden Overcoats has been anything other than the most highly sexually charged fiction that's ever been created. But I'd have to throw out that question out to everybody else here as to what their favourite sexy moments have been.
My favourite sexy moment was Desiree Valentino. No, what's his name? It was Darius Valentino, played by Pip Gladwin, the magician. He's my favourite sexually charged moment. When he's performing his stage show and screams, "Zones, I am a genius!" I don't think there was a dry seat in the house. But the other two things I really want to say at this point are, firstly, that Peter Wicks there skillfully avoided mentioning that he plays Timmy Todd. What's his name?
Teddy Todd.
Teddy Todd. There you go, something Todd. Yeah. He plays a psychopath in the Wooden Overcoats Summer Special
of the Summer Special,
and he which is available now. That's the sales pitch. The Wooden Overcoats Summer Special. He's a fantastic guest performer who's also been an incredible guest performer as our regular live Reverend Wavering. Whenever Andy Seacombe, the podcast mainstay, is unavailable, he fills in and does so tremendously. He is one of, I think, the finest actors any of us has had the pleasure of working with, ever.
In a series of so many great actors across the show and so many great guest performances, and Peter Wicks in the Summer Special is one of my favourite guest performances, the sheer joyful lunacy in which he forces Eric to read comics from the Beano and the Dandy in scenes that must have baffled most of our listeners, yes, but were there very much to amuse myself. And I think he's absolutely terrific. Fantastic, gleeful performance in that episode.
And also, it's really great that he recognises Ciara's amazing performance in that episode as well.
Incredible. Yes. Really amazing.
Ciara, for those at home, has just sort of done a weird bow into her microphone.
I mean, also, and of course, I mean, Peter Wicks himself has brought to us some of the most erotically charged moments of Wooden Overcoats as well.
By just being
present.
present.
By turning up. just by turning up.
Not even at recordings or live shows, just by being around in the world.
I mean, I think one of our earliest episodes being about Antigone seeing erotically charged French films and then seeing Eric Chapman in them that's certainly with some terrific French voices from Kieran Hodgson and Freya Parker.
Yes.
The most criminally underused actors that we ever got.
Would you like to do some?
We gave them
all your
3
lines in
lines
French?
each. Some of them improvised, and
Erotic
now
French.
they're very. Very
To be fair, Freya did also play the Australian cafe owner.
Hetty, yeah, that's right.
That is true.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
We're talking about such wonderful humans like Peter Wicks. I think now is a good time to shout out, like, all the creatives, all the actors and musicians, and everyone who has been there.
Yeah.
You know, Peter's been somebody who has been with us since the beginning for live shows and has been a constant supportive presence. And there have been so many wonderful, benevolent humans who have been with us, supporting us, and been part of the, the big old Wooden Overcoats family since the start. And I don't think that we could possibly thank them enough, no matter what we did. So, for what it's worth, thank you to every person who's ever come to be a runner or come to a live show or played the oboe or whatever it might be. We are eternally grateful.
We are, and we actually have a message from one of them.
Hello. I've got a message from a famous musician. It's coming from Carl Kramer.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Carl, one of the musicians from Wooden Overcoats Hiffling Philharmonic Orchestra.
Yes.
My favourite memory from the Wooden Overcoats series is probably singing Noggins' Wake song,
Yes.
Ode to Noggins, which I believe is series 2. Funeral House Divided, I think, is the episode. James Whittle, his composing is brilliant, and he wrote such a serious, ridiculous, silly song about this legend, the grass measurer of Piffling. And that's probably my favourite memory. I loved doing everything from the mandolin playing to all of the vocal work, like Piffling FM Radio.
Hey!
What a great show. I'm such a fan. My favourite characters, Antigone, Madeline, the house mouse, and probably the Reverend. The Reverend's hilarious. He's such a wild card. Such a privilege to be part of Wooden Overcoats.
I've
fabulous.
I've forgotten that song. That was a terrific song.
The musicians are
you want to talk about good
where
music
we've got the most lucky, right? Like, I think, I don't know how everyone else feels, but as an actor and writer, like, when I meet somebody who's very, very skilled as a composer or musician, I really feel like I'm a pretender. I'm pretending to have some sort of skill that's quantifiable in any way. If I can see somebody who can play an instrument, I think,
greatness.
What I do is a sort of child's play. What I do is the equivalent of fitting the star-shaped block into the star-shaped hole in the child's play set, compared to someone who can play the mandolin, for example, as I know Carl Kramer
Carl
can do.
Is the first person that you hear on the podcast? Is he the bang, 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 bang,
He
bang,
is.
bang, bang?
Oh my
Carl
God.
is the first person you hear on the show.
Amazing.
And I think we had a few chats where we sort of said with James that the mandolin is Rudyard when it comes to the music.
I think that Carl is the only true Rudyard, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Rudyard and the mandolin, the last question asking for musical moments, I think we haven't quite appreciated that time that Felix taught himself to play the mandolin to then have to pretend to be able to play it badly for the show.
It was originally, I think, a ukulele. But I had recently bought a mandolin online, so we changed it to mandolin.
Yes.
I was sort of trying to learn anyway, and it was a happy coincidence. My mandolin is awful. I mean, it's got a pickup unusually, but it's a proper plazzy piece of junk. It sounds dreadful.
Have you got better during lockdown?
No, I've not touched it in a while. But if you are trying to learn the mandolin, I recommend mandolessons.com.
You heard it here
Wooden
first.
Overcoats brought to you by mandolessons.com.
We're not putting that
sponsors
out
for
until we
season
get
4.
licensing money, okay? We need the money.
Are you getting a bit of sideline sponsorship, Felix, for this stuff?
Not at all. But Andy, let me ask you this. What hobbies have you picked up in lockdown? Has it been the mandolin? And if not, why not?
It hasn't been the mandolin. I've taken up 3D printing. I've got into making corporeal things because I spend nearly every day making noise, and it comes a point where it's not actually that satisfying to send someone a digital file anymore. And you want to have made something that you can hold in your damn hands. I'd love one day to like print Wooden Overcoats vinyl, just so we can hold it. Like that amount of work that we've done, like hours and hours and hours, just to actually hold something that we've made.
I support that life goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just 3D print the waveform of episode 1, and then
that would take so long.
Yeah, do it. So
I want to wear it as a choker.
Oh yeah,
it would choke you.
Like a Renaissance ruff as a choker, just in audio.
Print me off the theme tune. I want that.
That'd be good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. Actually.
Yeah, we can all wear it. Answering the question of the favourite music, it's the theme tune. Because every time I hear it, my heart bursts and grows.
I have to say, it is really. It's
a
like
banger.
the Poirot theme, in that you have that kind of. Well, it is. You have that kind of a bang, ba bang, ba bang, bang. Like you, it's memorable. It has.
And
the
the
sort of
interesting thing about that
quality.
is that it's still the Series 1 recording, because when we did the Series 1 thing, we did it in this big hall at York University, because that's where James Whittle was still doing his PhD, was it?
Yeah.
And it was where he could easily, let's be honest, press gang a load of musicians down to come and help us. And we recorded it okay, but we were kind of outsourcing a lot of like how you do that at that point between John and I, we got better at learning how to record music. And there's something about just the feeling of it in this room where you're kind of hearing everyone playing at the same time, this united thing, where we tried to re-record it for Series 2, and it just wasn't as good. Like it just didn't have the impacts and like
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Big congrats to James on all of that work.
James Whittle, the new Ronnie Hazelhurst.
And the full Piffling Philharmonic. It is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
fantastic.
To have had like
Have an orchestra.
entire orchestra to do the music for the show.
Not to bang on about the music at the end of Series 3, Episode 8 one more time, but I do remember when we recorded that in Tom's dad's church.
All Saints East Finchley, yes, that's right, yes. I was going to say I was there, and as that was being played, I cried.
I was there too.
And Felix was there. Felix also cried. I was recording it. I also cried.
Yep.
I turned around and saw John. John was also
We
crying.
all cried.
And that was before we'd even mixed it. Just the sound of that being recorded brought 4 of us immediately to tears.
It really did. And then hearing it again, remembering seeing it recorded, it also made me cry. More so because I'd seen them playing it. But yeah.
It was very cathartic, that recording, I remember. I remember that I think we'd been so sort of, not on edge, but, you can't help but be on a high after being stuck in a box recording a sitcom for 5 days.
Yeah.
And there was something about watching other people taking over and taking over a different flavour of it that was very reassuring. It was like, it's over, but it's sort of not over. Don't worry, this thing still exists. And good news, it's beautiful.
But as an actor, you don't get that very often. You don't get to see any of the other post-production stuff. You don't get to see the score being recorded. You don't get to see the edit room. Often as an actor, all you do is you try your best.
Don't
and then
see your costume.
No, you never
Don't
see
get to
a
see the
costume. You
actors.
don't see your own face ever. They keep you in
So you're
a
just
darkened box,
covered in mud.
But you
thrown in a
don't.
lake.
You don't. You normally as an actor, you get your part. If you're lucky, you have a few days to prepare it, and then you record it in the room, doing the best you can. Then you leave, and if you're lucky, you ever hear it again. But in this case, because we're part of this independent production where we're all we have a bit of a hand in various different areas of production, we get to then sit in a lovely church hall and hear this beautifully composed piece of music, which we've pictured abstractly before because we've seen the script. We've seen the stage direction that says, Madeline says that the hot air balloon rises up into the sky. She says this beautiful line, and then this plays us out to the end of the series. And then you've done all that work and you've prepared the part, you've acted it, and then you sit there and you hear the music that's going to play when that happens. And what an amazing thing to experience. I would wager most Hollywood actors, I'd wager Tom Cruise, after falling out of the 11th plane of the day, doesn't actually get to see Hans Zimmer or whoever it is conducting the orchestra while that music is recorded. And I got to say, it was a rare and special privilege to see it happen.
It is a privilege. And also, for being a podcast, for being a radio drama even, it's a privilege. It's not something that most people get to do.
Yeah.
and is a mark of how lucky we've been with the show. And the process when we work with James and the musicians, but James particularly in this case, we sort of give him abstracts. We show him scripts. We give him abstract ideas. And then he goes away and turns it into magic. And then, we might hear a MIDI file that comes back in the middle, but to suddenly hear that come to life for real is something else completely.
I was going to ask 3 seasons in, and still obviously a 4th left to go, which is still in the process of pre-production. There's still scripts being put together as we speak. But what people's sort of favourite moment of sort of doing the show had been, or if there was a single favourite moment of recording or writing or or making that people had.
Tom Jansis, a fan of the show, actually asked this exact question, so he'd love to hear the answer.
Hello, it's Miss Scruple here again. We've got a call from Tom. Putting you through, dear.
A very happy birthday unto you, Wooden Overcoats. You don't look a day over 3. Tom Jansis here, long-time listener, first-time recorder of audio notes. My question is this. We all love goofs and gags. Cast, were there any lines that you just had to keep doing again because you couldn't get your mouth round it, or just got a terrible case of the giggles? David, similar. Any lines that you were chortling to yourself late at night?
Ciara, let's start with you.
I love all my lines.
It's a very politically correct answer.
With
the writers.
I can't pick a favourite.
Right here.
No, honestly, it's such a joy playing Georgia. I couldn't. How could I pick a favourite one? But I do love the consistency with I guess my catchphrase of saying that I'm great at everything. I do love saying that over and over again.
On Georgie's stuff, I think I'd say Rudyard Takes a Hike, Rosie Fletcher's amazing episode, where the scouts will go into the wood. Mm-hmm. Georgie's put down lines of Chapman throughout that entire episode, I think, are gold every single time.
Yeah.
Hold Your Own, Georgie is one of my favourite ones.
Oh my God, I forgot. Yeah. There's too many to list. This is what I mean. Like, how can I pick? That one's brilliant. I forgot about that.
Georgie.
Thanks for reminding me.
You hold your own, Georgie.
It's one of the words I was like, David, you
Yes, I've already done it.
And he did.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that one's fab.
Beth.
I have way too many brilliant lines. I have no idea, and I won't even remember them all. I think when no, not that one. When I was asked to be in this, Felix was like, "Oh, David's written this thing. Do you want to play my sister?" And I was obviously terrified and had no idea what was going on.
Those questions were
if...
unrelated. And I would like to pick up that conversation again.
Let's come to it. When I first saw the first episode and Antigone appears and she has this line about what she's been up to, and she said a tiny dash of cinnamon, and that's the point where I was like, okay, I can do this. I understand what this person is like. I understand how she says this. So that was a massive relief, and it's been a joy ever since, really.
Hasn't it,
very, very
just?
lucky.
Hasn't it, just?
Liz, as someone who has watched the entire series come together, what is a line that stuck with you?
Oh, God. I mean, the line that David will never lid down because he didn't write it.
Yes. I knew it would come up.
Yes. Sugar.
Christ.
No, Georgie, this isn't a brothel, which everyone quotes as their favourite
I think
line.
that was Cordelia Lynn, Royal Court playwright, who wrote that. I'm pretty sure.
You know it wasn't. It was you, Tom Crowley. It was you! How dare you!
My favourite line, which I'm almost certain was written by David K. Barnes, was for me to perform, was... We've got Michael Douglas. I thought it was... I mean, but the thing is, with David's writing, you can't just pick out one line because you have to get the build-up of it. And to do that adequately, I'd have to dig the script up and then read every single part, which we've already had this evening, so I'm not going to do it again. But yeah, that was one of my favourite to deliver, certainly.
My favourite window.
But again, with the build-up would be better, but we can't do it.
Well, that performance by Pip Gladwin, who did a little cameo earlier, is incredible because it's a Wilhelm scream of a performance.
It is.
The way he does,
My favourite
he goes
window.
Like, my favourite window! It's an incredible arpeggio of an exclamation. It's brilliant. Oh, man.
Felix.
Oh, I I always like it when Rudyard, he's got this kind of second mode where he goes very introspective and very inner and starts to question everything he's ever done and where he's going in his future. And I like all of those softer moments with Rudyard. But the line that really rings in my ears, and I hear it quite often, is after a very dramatic moment, after the cave-in, when Antigone and Chapman are stuck and Rudyard's trying to get them in, is Alison Skilbeck turning to Andy Singicum and going, "Have you got a bucket of sand?"
Incredible stuff.
Cracking Alison Skilbeck impression.
Oh yeah.
Yes, very good.
Very
David,
good.
as a callback, what's your Alison Skilbeck?
Too many sweets.
Very good.
Suspicious.
I've
One
got
could say.
my line is not a line so much, but I love going through the script, and David has put these audio directions in that are easy to write. Let's put them that way. They're easy to write. And incredibly fun to record. But when it then comes to actually making these things sound like they have some sort of semblance in reality, it's fun. But there's a Madeline line in episode 6 of series 1 where it's something like, "And there was a yacht-shaped shape, which turned out to be a yacht." And then it's just written in the subtitles, "A yacht appears, a gangplank is put down, with a party going on, and people come aboard the rowboat."
This is basic stuff. You're supposed to be radio producers. Why on earth is this so difficult for you?
I think there was.
Wasn't David the man who wrote the direction "Lions Cry"?
I was going to say this one should be like a lion roars sadly.
Yeah.
The owls attack. Like, right, I've literally got a video open on Reddit right now, which is about how owls don't make any sound with their wings.
So
Aggressive hooting.
As the person who did both of those sound effects in the show, the lions, the sad lions are actually lions copulating.
Oh God!
Nice.
How did you get that?
Well, that's the sexiest moment.
Yes.
There you go.
John and I went on a safari a few years ago.
End of story.
I mean, surely one important sound effect is, I think, in season 1, I think it's the cliffhanger, which is the sound of an angry cat being thrown into a bin.
Oh, it's
which
so
I don't
good.
believe is a real cat. Who was?
No, that's Beth Eyre.
Was that Beth Eyre?
Partly
Partly Beth
yeah.
Eyre. It's a huge composite of different bits, but I had Beth do a cat impression while attacking a pillow, which was hugely helpful, and then I threw said pillow into a bin and recorded that, and then I did a composite of myself screaming and a cat to make the sound of it flying away. So when it's immediately near you, that's the start of a cat going ah, and then it having the full scream and landing in the bin had to be me because I couldn't find a cat sound effect that did it properly. So that was a lot going into cat is put in bin.
I'd like to point out that me and Andy were housemates at this time and shared rooms next to each other, and our neighbours must have thought we were insane.
Yeah.
Your neighbours was us.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah. I stand by it.
On favourite moments from the show, I think we've had an awful lot from Miss Scruple this episode, and we said earlier, Ellie Dickens is extraordinary. Here's a little something from Ellie herself.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think my most special moment would have been my very first appearance. Now, I just had the one speech to do. And I did it, sort of as one does. And what was wonderful was I had to do it a couple more times because the people on the other side were laughing so loudly it penetrated the booth. And I didn't think I was that funny, but everybody else did, so that was great. And that's my best memory.
Oh,
that's so true.
It's very true.
Very
That's
funny.
Remember
incredible.
when we used to get people in for one line? God, we wouldn't do that anymore.
Times past.
incredible.
Yeah. Well, Ellie, you were that funny. That's
Yes.
That's the reason that the
Consistently
laughter
Amazing scene. That's why
smashed
she's
through the
still in it.
walls. Yeah.
I think my favourite Ellie Dickens line reading is somewhere in season 3 when she's trying to put Rudyard she's coming to kidnap Rudyard and goes, yeah,
Sack.
get in the sack. It's so warm and yet sinister, authoritative, you would do it.
Isn't the follow-up line to that, I shan't say why. Like,
Yes, it is. I shan't
as good,
say
if not
why.
better, yeah. I think there's also something lovely about the way she says, okay, Vicar. I think Ellie Dickens always absolute gold, a genius.
So good.
She is fantastic, and thank you so much, Ellie, for
Ellie, what a
voicing the
star.
script.
Ellie Dickens.
And for
Thank
being
you,
our
Ellie.
switchboard. I mean,
Yeah.
when did this happen?
No, that was Miss
What a
Fruitful.
nice
That's-
surprise.
I think having this sort of really exceptional cast of sort of actors of so many different sort of backgrounds and talents, and being able to work with all of us, and also people like Andy Seacombe and Alison Skilbeck and Sean Baker, Paul Putner. We've had so many incredible actors. Belinda Lang doing Madeline. It's just an exceptional privilege to work with such very, very talented and funny actors consistently, who've also been happy enough to come back, which is always the sign of things going well, is if the actor wants to come back and do it again.
These are people who should be beating us up for our milk money in the schoolyard,
Yes.
in the acting field.
Yeah.
They should be drubbing us mercilessly and stealing our lunch money, but they're not. They're helping us out, which is astonishing.
Yeah, I remember actually my favourite moment for recording the show, if it is, and I'm really glad Georgina and the Waves, which I think is season 1, episode 6, has come for a few people, because that's the one which, that first recording week, which was I think 4 days, in which we did 8 episodes and were absolutely sort of brain dead doing it. Just was so all the energy had been sort of sucked out of us. But it was an incredible experience having all these people doing all these scripts, and it was an absolute sort of whirlwind. But Georgina and the Waves has always been kind of my private favourite episode of the scripts I'd written, at least, for that season. And it is with all the silliness that goes on in the show and all the wackiness and strange characters, the clifftop argument of Rudyard and Antigone while Georgie is trying to mediate, and Eric is sort of across the way in his ship. That was the sort of argument which I remember he did several times between, especially with, the higher register of it between Felix and Beth. And that was the scene which I kept thinking, if we get this scene right, not necessarily like then the show will work, because a lot of it is clearly working, but I will personally I will feel that, yes, we, on a personal level, we have done an absolute perfect job. This is the scene, it was the scene that meant the most to me in writing it. It was, for me, the sort of private linchpin of the whole season and kind of ethos of the show itself. And listening over several takes, then the final take, which I assume must be the one that we actually used, of Felix and Beth doing that argument and the "you're just not good enough," and Rudyard's rejoinder, was the moment for me. That was the most magical moment. I think the most magical sort of few minutes of the entire recording week, and still I think stands up as probably one of the most electric moments of ever recording the show, because it was just this moment of, yes, sort of calm acceptance of, yes, I think this show is really good. I think it's going to be a really good show, and I'm so pleased.
Yeah, it was absolutely stunning, and I think it's the move, both in the writing and in the characters, where these characters are going places. They're not going to be stuck in their roles that you heard in Series 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
There's been a few wonderful moments like that across recording the series, and they're always in the studio. I find like it's lovely putting it together, putting it out, and seeing how the audiences receive it. But it's when you're watching this wonderful cast come together and make it, and also when you're kind of watching it through the gaze of people coming in for a day to watch it happen. And one of my favourite ones of those was when we were doing 3, and Julia Deakin was in for the day to finish Nana Crusoe. And when we did Series 1, she gave me a real chewing out for a bit of direction that she didn't love. And then she came back in Series 3 and did an incredible job as Nana in that last episode, like really unbelievable performance. And at the end of the day, gave me a preemptive telling off for ever undervaluing this show. And it was a really incredible moment where, she's one of my absolute comedy idols. I mean, if you haven't watched Spaced, dear listener, go and watch Spaced, among wonderful other things. And she kind of took me to one side and went, "You've got something good here."
I didn't know that. That's beautiful.
So I was like, yeah.
She did the same
Don't
to
mess
me.
it up. Look after it.
Yeah, she did the exact same to me. She was, as if I hadn't seen these scripts before. We were sitting in a sort of waiting room to go in and do the recording, and she was saying, "You get some scripts sometimes, don't you, where you just go, well, this really hasn't got it. Whatever it is, this just hasn't got it. But this is funny." Like pointing at the page as if that was a massive surprise to me or anyone else. Like, no, hang on, wait, shut up. This is funny. And I went, well, thank you, Julia, venerable, expert at comedy, I will pay attention to what you're saying and I'll recognise that this is what funny is. And I've never forgotten that. I've never devalued that.
That episode of that's for Georgina the Ways of Julia Deakin coming in for I think possibly 10 lines.
Yeah,
and
about 10 lines.
Doing them all brilliantly, and you got sort of Tom Tucker doing a wonderfully over the top performance. And over there on the ship, there's a brief scene of Alison comes in, and there's Andy Seacombe vomiting over the side of a boat, and Steve was there. And it's just there's sort of all these actors in one place. It's just a really joyful thing. And I will have to say, though, one of the lines I do even quote to myself sometimes is still, "We've got Michael Douglas." That is still one of mine as well.
We've got
Can we
Michael
see him?
Douglas.
No.
Yes.
No. That's
Tom,
right. That is the best bit.
Don't you play Michael Douglas actually in the sound design in there?
My father was Kirk Douglas. That's, if you listen very closely, that's the line you can hear me say in the Waller of that scene.
We're going to wrap up, I think, because we've been talking for a very, very long time. But
do we have any more listener questions?
We have quite a few. I want to play you one just really beautiful one that I think you will enjoy.
Hello. Me again. We've got a reverse charge call from Vancouver, Canada. Will you accept it?
Yes, sure, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I'm 21 years old from Vancouver, Canada. I started listening to Wooden Overcoats in late 2016 in my first ever term of university when I felt at my most isolated. But listening to this podcast, I found a family in the characters of Piffling Vale and the community surrounding the show. Wooden Overcoats made me laugh when sometimes I couldn't find it in myself to get out of bed. It inspired me to be creative, drawing fan art for the first time in years, and listening through the episodes to mash up every time Felix Trench screams Chapman. It's over 200 times in 4 seasons, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
It stayed with me through several moves to several cities over the years, and the familiar voices of the cast were a constant comfort through these periods of transitions. I doodled quotes from the show and the coffin logo all over my lecture notes, even through to my second and third years of uni. I've laughed, I've cried, both publicly on a bus and in my sister's room to her shock, as she was under the assumption it was a comedy podcast. But I've always felt at home listening to the show, despite the endless days of trying to explain to people that it's a podcast. No, it's fiction. Like a British sitcom, but for your ears, about funeral homes, was the best show I'd ever listened to. In the early days of quarantine, I re-listened to the entire show, specials and all, and reflected on how much this show has meant to me over the years and how much love I have for it in my heart. I was so overwhelmed with affection for the show that I emailed David K. Barnes, who, by the way, is the world's nicest man. And by some luck, it didn't end up in his junk mail. We bonded over moving in uni to assert our independence, Wolf 359, and the importance of found families. The kindness of everyone I have ever interacted with about the show has been overwhelming and incredible, from the writers to the cast to the fans. I feel so lucky to be even one small part of such a special family. Happy 5-year anniversary, Wooden Overcoats. Where did the time go? I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy.
Isn't that such a beautiful message from
quite
Megan?
frankly, that's exactly why.
Yeah, it's an incredible message.
That's why we ever got involved in any industry relating to this. I mean, we all felt the exact same way the first time we saw any number of sitcoms when we were young people, and we felt the exact same way. We comedies and dramas, comedies especially for me, and you know, it is exactly that. That's why we set out to make these things, is to create comedy characters, because comedy, well, let's be honest, it's better than drama. And that's why we make a comedy podcast. It is the best one.
Broad claims.
It is. It just is. That's the thing. It just is better than drama. And the reason is, for exactly that reason, is that we've connected in that way. And that is maybe the most rewarding thing we could possibly hear, for the very reason that that's why so many other comedy programs connected with us in the exact same way. And it means so much that we could do the same thing for you.
It really does.
I was saying, actually, Megan, I do remember that email exchange and talking about the sort of themes of the show and times at university and the rest of it. I do remember that exchange, and I think the conversation that we had over those emails got me thinking a great deal about the themes that would later go to shape season 4, which is so in the process of being written still as we speak. So very valuable sort of a conversation that really got me thinking. And thank you so much for sending in that message. I always think that the mistake people make about comedy is assuming it ought to be funny. I think it's always very helpful if it doesn't have to be, and you just make people cry at the end. I think every comedy, sad comedy.
You're just underselling yourself, David.
Sad comedy is what I want. Endless people failing and then having to get up and carry on doing it anyway. That's what I want.
It strikes me listening to that one name that you can say in a very similar way to Chapman is Megan.
Well, I think I'd like to say thank you to everyone who wrote in, who sent us voice notes. We haven't got through quite all of them, but they were all brilliant, and I assure you we'll all have read every single one of them, even if they didn't get featured on the show. We're still working towards season 4. We are going to make it. It is going to come out the moment we can get into a studio to record it safely with our cast. But thank you everyone for coming together to celebrate 5 years of Wooden Overcoats. This has been really brilliant. I'm so glad we did this.
Thank you for those beautiful questions, and that was wow, what a treat! What a treat to see all your faces again, you beautiful
nice
people.
to see everyone.
Yeah, lovely to see all of you, gang, and lovely to hear from everyone who wrote in. Incredible.
Here on Zoom.
Special guest Pip Gladwin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Special guest and Andy's housemate Pip Gladwin. I'm sure it's much more special for all of you.
Special guest Ellie Dickens as well as
Yes. I want them both to be my housemate.
Well, happy birthday, Wooden Overcoats. Thank you to
bloomin' birthday. Happy piffling birthday, everyone.
Happy birthday.
And we've said it enough throughout the show to lots of different people, but the show really wouldn't be possible without a really large number of incredibly talented people.
Over 100, 150 now, isn't it?
Must be. So we're so grateful to them and so grateful to you for all listening still, and we can't wait to bring you more shows.
And a big round of applause for John for cutting all those questions together.
Thank you.
Well done, John.
To be an undertaker, sometimes it kinda makes you want to be the one that's dead. It can be so very lonely when you feel that you're the only one who's stuck inside your head. I'm surrounded by coffins, but the truth here, of course, is I get the body in the coffin in the ground on time. Yes, the ground on time. I get the body in the coffin in the ground on time. Yeah, 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 yeah. But the truth here, of course, is I get the body in the coffin in the ground on time. Yes, the ground on time. I get the body in